Eric Mcalister and Bud Clark are poised for big seasons, and the media realizes that by putting them on the All Big 12 preseason team.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
That's right, Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. I've been covering TCU athletics for the past 12 years. We're brought to you today by Gametime. Gametime is the place to go. If you need tickets, check it out on the Gametime app on your iPhone or Google device. We're going to talk about TCU adding another player to their 2026 class in segment 2, Noriel Pac-Man Dominguez. Pac-Man is his nickname, which is a great nickname for a linebacker. And I think that's what we're going to refer to him as most of the time because I just love that nickname. But Noriel Dominguez, who actually had to sit out his junior year because of transfer rule, transferring high schools, but in his sophomore season at Fort Bend Marshall, had almost 100 tackles and is a really good and talented player. So we'll get into that later on in the show. But we start today with some news that Eric Mcalister and Bud Clark are being recognized by the Big 12 media before the season. Now, I talked to you yesterday about the Locked On Big 12 big preseason poll because the Big 12 Conference is not doing their traditional preseason media poll this year, so we put that together. TCU came in at 7th. I think that's wrong. I feel like it's way too low. Frogs are good enough to win a conference title. The all Big 12 teams came out today. Now, this is just one team on offense, one team on defense. In the postseason, they dole out second team, third team, honorable mention. None of that. Preseason is just one team. So on the offensive side of the ball, Eric Mcalister at wide receiver. On the defensive side of the ball, Bud Clark, defensive back, specifically Bud Clark, the safety. Elsewhere on this list, offensive player of the year, Sam Leavitt from Arizona State. Defensive player of the year, Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker from Texas Tech. Newcomer of the year, Devin Dampier, quarterback from Utah. And yeah, those are your three superlatives there. The all-conference teams, Sam Leavitt, your first-team quarterback. Bryson Washington from Baylor, your first-team running back. Jaheim White from West Virginia, also a running back that was recognized. Eric Mcalister at TCU wide receiver. Chase Roberts, BYU wide receiver. Jordan Tyson, wide receiver at Arizona State. Joe Royer, Cincinnati tight end. Ben Coleman, Arizona State offensive lineman. Spencer Fano, Utah offensive lineman. Bryce Foster, Kansas offensive lineman. Caleb Lemieux, Utah offensive lineman. Jordan Seaton, Colorado offensive lineman. And then Will Ferrinan is your kicker from BYU. Josh Cameron from Baylor is your specialist, your punt returner, kick returner. Focusing on the offense for a second, and really specifically just talking about Eric Mcalister. I think it's easy to forget how impactful Eric Mcalister was when he was on the field last season. In limited opportunities, he had 39 receptions for 762 yards and 5 touchdowns. This was after missing a couple of games early in the year because of a suspension, dealing with some injuries. Almost 800 yards on 39 catches, 19 and a half yards per catch, and 5 touchdowns. Also had some pivotal moments within the season. A big catch and run for a touchdown against Kansas when that game was in the balance. The go-ahead touchdown against Texas Tech where he caught a back shoulder throw, made a move on the DB, and took it to the house from, I believe, 86 yards out. In the bowl game, we got a glimpse of Eric Mcalister as wide receiver 1. Of course, it was against the Louisiana team that TCU should have handled their business against, and they did. But he did a nice job catching the football. Did some really good things. I mean, in his game log, he had 87 yards against Louisiana on 8 catches, 87 yards against Arizona on 3 catches, 100 yards against KU on 4 catches and a touchdown, 114 on 6 catches against SMU and a touchdown. That Texas Tech game, 1 catch, 84 yards, 1 touchdown, made the most of it. He's a big play threat. Now, he poses that threat as a dude that can go up and win 50-50 balls, but he's also fast, he's big, he's physical, and showed an ability. Savion Williams was so good at this. He would catch the ball And it wasn't even really like he was shifty in space, but just with his size, he was difficult to bring to the ground. And 9 times out of 10, first contact wasn't going to get him down. It was going to take, multiple guys or someone to slow him down and someone to bring him down to tackle him. That's what made him so effective. Taking the ball in the Wildcat formation as a quarterback, taking the ball in the backfield as a running back. When Eric Mcalister committed, he transferred from BYU after, ironically enough, Andy Avalos was fired as the Boise State head coach. He ends up at TCU. And when he committed, my thought was, well, this will be a good compliment to Savion Williams because it was supposed to be Savion's year as the dude. Mcalister could be on the other side. He's the type of player that can stretch the field. And then Jack Besh comes into the fold and thankfully, surprisingly, decides to take over the entire season for TCU at that wide receiver spot. And because of that, it's not like Eric Mcalister became an afterthought. He was still used in this offense, but he didn't end up being the starter that we thought he could be when he transferred here from Boise State. Well, now it's his season. I do think there are going to be some challenges. Eric last year, when he stepped on the field, he was not the guy that was going to get paid the most attention to by the secondary, by the defense, not because of his talent level, but just because Jack Besh, Savion Williams, J.P. Richardson, those were the dudes that defenses focused in on first. So this year, McAllister's going to be facing the best corner on the other team. There will be games, most likely this season, where a lot of the defensive game planning and focus is about bracketing him, throwing an extra defender on his side, shading safeties his way, being physical with him, trying to make his life difficult, throwing different players at him, just trying to get him out of a rhythm. And he has to find a way to fight through that. But he's got some experience doing that at Boise State. He played a big role in what they did last season here at TCU. And now he's ready to step into this role as the lead wide receiver this upcoming year. So high praise from the Big 12 media selecting him to the All Big 12 team. Bud Clark, also a part of this on the defensive side of the ball. Defensive lineman David Bailey, the transfer from Stanford who ended up at Texas Tech. Dante Corleone, Cincinnati big nose guard. Defensive lineman CJ Fight from Arizona State. Defensive lineman Lee Hunter, again, Texas Tech player. UCF transfer. Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker at Texas Tech. Austin Romaine, linebacker from Kansas State. Keaton Thomas, linebacker from Baylor. Xavier Alford, Arizona State defensive back. Bud Clark, TCU. Jeremiah Cooper, Iowa State defensive back. DJ McKinney, Colorado defensive back. John Tez Williams from Iowa State at DB. And then Palmer Williams, the Baylor punter, gets recognized as a specialist on that side of the ball. Bud Clark, in the back half of the season and really those last 4 or 5 games, you saw a player that regained his confidence. Bud's always been somebody who's going to take risk. He likes to make plays on the ball. Best example of that pick 6 against Michigan in the playoff game. He had 3 interceptions last season, 44 solo tackles, 68 total tackles, and 1 forced fumble. He had 3 picks in 2023. He had 5 picks in 2022. Now, when you take risk like that, you are going to give up good plays or big plays from time to time. But you live with it if you have a DB who can make things happen. Trey Watson, who's coming over from Cal, the new safeties coach. One thing that he's been known for throughout his career, he finds a way to help his DBs get their hands on the football. He produces players and develops players who create turnovers. The TCU defense, if they're going to take a step forward, you would love to see both these things happen, but it's got to be in one of 2 ways. Either more consistently, you have to get off the field on 3rd down and force punts and give your offense good field position, or you need to become a more opportunistic defense. If you're still going to give up yards and points and play more of a bend but don't break style, then in those big moments, you need timely stops and you need turnovers. That 2022 team, Bud Clark was a part of it. 5 interceptions. They got turnovers when they needed to. They also got big time stops in momentum changing moments during games. But a huge part of what they did was turning teams over. So Andy Avalos, Trey Watson, this defensive staff, they need to allow Bud Clark to do that. And hopefully in year 5 and really year 4 for him of playing significant snaps, Bud has a better understanding, along with the fact that he should know this defense better than he did last season, of when to take those chances and when it's better to just stay in front of that wide receiver, get him on the ground and live to play on second down or third down, or even if you give up the occasional first down, don't let players get behind you. But I don't want him to lose that risk-taking ability and attitude he has that leads to big plays, because this is a defense that is in need of players that make splash plays. As far as who was left off, I'm not really surprised by it. I mean, I would love to see Josh Hoover there. Sam Leavitt won a lot of games. Arizona State won a Big 12 title. It makes sense that people are excited about him. But I believe there's a world where Josh Hoover could end up being your offensive player of the year if he puts up good numbers and TCU wins games. I'm a little surprised Devin Deal wasn't there as a defensive lineman edge rusher. He'll have those chances, though, during the season to prove people wrong. When we come back, Pac-Man Dominguez, a linebacker who played his sophomore season at Fort Bend Marshall. He is committed to TCU. A very impressive offer list. We'll talk about that next year on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Before we do that, I need to tell you about my friends at Gametime. I love Gametime. I've told you about them before, especially during basketball and baseball season. I got my TCU tickets through the Gametime app. It's super simple to use. You simply download the app. You can use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. But, I mean, it's literally 2 or 3 clicks of a button, and you have tickets on your phone in the app. You don't have to wonder, okay, do I check my email? Do I check my wallet? Where did these tickets go? No, it's there for you. They give you a picture. They let you see what your view is going to be from your seat before you purchase those tickets. There are no hidden fees. Listen to that again. No hidden fees. Yes, there are some fees. They're trying to make a buck like everybody else, but they tell you what they are up front. You hit that add to cart button, your total does not change by a drastic amount. You're like, oh, these tickets are only $10 a piece. Great. You get to check out $45. That does not happen with the Gametime app. They tell you what you're paying for, how much it's going to be. They make it simple. They're upfront. Download the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms and conditions, as always, apply. Gametime. They make buying tickets easy. Well, the momentum for TCU's 2026 class just continues to build. 2 commits over the weekend. Brock King, a corner from Port Arthur Memorial, and Amonte Martin, a running back, also from Port Arthur Memorial, second running back in this class, joins Giovori Graham from the San Antonio area. Today's commit, or I guess you listen to this on Wednesday, Monday's commit, Noriel Dominguez, who played his sophomore season at Fort Bend Marshall, then transferred and had to sit out last year because of transfer rules. This guy's offer list is really impressive. His measurables, 6'2", 225 pounds. This is an inside linebacker. This is a guy that's coming on downhill. He is ready to pop pads. He's coming with bad intentions. He's there to make tackles. He looks the part of a big, physical, intimidating college linebacker. Arizona State offer, Arkansas offer, Baylor, Florida, LSU, Michigan, Oregon, Notre Dame. Now, I think the recruiting momentum for him slowed a little bit because he had to set out his junior year. He's a 3-star prospect right now, according to 247 Sports. Dave Campbell's Texas Football, for what it's worth, has him as a 4-star player. I believe there's room for him to get a ratings bump before the end of his high school career because I think this is a dude that's going to have an outstanding senior season. The team that TCU is competing directly against in this recruiting race, Houston, that has been a frequent foe recently on the trail. Frogs are doing a nice job winning those battles. I've said this a lot during this recruiting cycle. These are the types of battles TCU needs to focus on winning. Yes, I would love it if they were going head to head with Alabama and Clemson and Ole Miss and LSU and schools like that with some of these prospects. But they're doing a good job right now targeting and finding players that are also drawing interest from Houston, Baylor, Texas Tech in some cases, teams in their conference that are good talent evaluators. Houston hasn't had a lot of success lately, but Willie Fritz is a good coach. He knows how to win. He knows how to build culture. He knows how to get players that can play. So if he's interested in someone, especially a defensive player, I'm intrigued. You watch the tape, there's a lot of good things here. The physicality is what jumps off the screen. An ability to get off blocks, to avoid being engaged with by offensive linemen on the second level. Good run fits. Athleticism is there. I mean, he's the size that you want for an inside linebacker, but that doesn't mean that he's not a dude that can go sideline to sideline and make plays. I feel like he's a player that if he was asked to be in coverage, he would equip himself well because he can move well. He's got that juice from a speed standpoint and also quickness and shiftiness. His sophomore season at Fort Bend Marshall, he had 92 tackles, 4 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, creating turnovers, getting the quarterback in the backfield, making those splash plays, 92 tackles, a lot of good things from that sophomore year. He was named at one point underclassman of the week by Dave Campbell's Texas Football, and that was in the middle of a big summer for him in fall that saw a lot of those big name offers like Oregon, Arizona State, LSU, many others. He talked to Tom Loy of 247 Sports. They asked him about committing to TCU. He said, why not TCU? I feel like it's the best option for me. Coach Wilson has coached great linebackers who are in the league now. The fan base is like no other. Coaches and I are really close. On his connection to the staff, Coach Dykes, Coach Avalos, the assistant linebacker coach, the defensive line coach, and Coach Wilson sat down with me and we talked for about an hour straight. That first week, he had come to TCU. Coach Dykes told me, we want you and nobody else. You have a bright future. I promise you will be in the league. As a coaching staff, we have bright plans for you here. We always have a family-like bond. On what TCU is getting from Noriel Dominguez, both on and off the field, TCU is going to get a natty out of me. I love it. And a monster and a leader and a linebacker on and off the field. Y'all are going to see how he shocked the world. I'm going to let my talent speak for itself. I'm home now. Really like this pickup. I think it's a guy that they're going to have to obviously continue to work on that relationship because I do believe if he was kind of out of sight, out of mind for some schools due to the fact that he didn't play a lot, or he didn't play last season, not a lot. He didn't play at all last season because of the transfer situation. His presence on the field again and just having that film is going to intrigue those teams. And if he has a productive season, which I think he's going to, then that attention could circle back. But TCU in a good place. They stuck with him through this process, and they land him as a linebacker prospect, 6'2", 220 pounds, good athleticism. They've done a really nice job piecing together this class over the last few weeks. And Sonny said in a recent press conference, he was like, look, we feel confident once this house settlement gets resolved and we have a better idea of where we're at financially, that this recruiting class is going to really ramp up in the next few weeks. And that was at a time where they didn't have a ton of commits. Landed Vincent Johnson Jr., landed Jason Bradford. They've added a number of other players, and I think some more to come. But Pac-Man Dominguez, the linebacker who played a sophomore season at Fort Bend Marshall, he's a Frog, at least for now. Another victory on the recruiting trail against Houston, against Baylor. And there's a lot of players out there. I know they've had their share of wins too, but I believe TCU is doing a good job of identifying talent. And that relationship building piece is a huge part of it. Ken Wilson came over from Nevada, and once Andy Avalos made this move to TCU, he's done a nice job. I think from an on-the-field standpoint, we'll find out a lot about this linebacker crew this season in year 2 of his time, but also from a recruiting standpoint, doing a nice job building these relationships with high school players across the state of Texas. When we come back, some of your thoughts on where TCU stands in the preseason expectations and media days coming up. So I'll be at Big 12 Media Days. I'm not going to be there today, but I'll be there Wednesday when TCU is talking. Sonny Dykes will have his press conference, and he'll do kind of the media car wash. Coverage will be on ESPN Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you want to tune into that, you can. Players will also be there having some breakout sessions, and Sonny will come back after that press conference in the afternoon and address most likely a smaller contingent of the media, probably mainly TCU people, in the afternoon as well. So on tomorrow's show, I'll run down some of the questions I have and just the things I want to hear from him. I mean, you take all this with a grain of salt. Like it's coaches talking about their team, trying to drum up excitement for the season. So you're not always going to get 100% truthfulness, but I think Sonny does a nice job of giving you insights if you pay attention to how he talks about things. Who's in the lead in this running back competition, right? Who are the players that have stepped up so far? What is the offensive line looking like? How are they planning on replacing all these wide receivers? Year 2 of Andy Avalos as defensive coordinator. How much more confidence do these defensive players have in what they're doing, in reading and reacting and playing with instincts and not having to sit there and think, okay, if they're in this formation, if they're doing this, how am I supposed to play it? How am I reacting to it? It should be a lot quicker now. And that in itself is going to lead to some good results for this TCU defense. That SMU game, that UCF game last year, there were just games, especially early in the schedule, where it felt like the defense was playing on their heels from the jump, and they just weren't totally sure what they were supposed to be doing, how they're supposed to be, reacting, playing things. And it got better as the year went on. Now you need to see them take that next step this season for it really to pay big dividends in the win-loss column. We discussed that Locked On preseason poll yesterday. Also talked about some recruiting additions. Curtis says, dangerous duo. I assume he's referring to the pair of teammates from Port Arthur Memorial. And that was Brock King, cornerback, and Amonte Martin, the running back. And yes, they are explosive players. A lot of speed there. I really like that Brock King at corner also was a factor on special teams. And played a little bit in the backfield too as a running back. So has that big playability and can make things happen. That's a good sign for sure. Frog fan in the YouTube comments said TCU will be unrated this season, underrated maybe. And then everyone, when TCU makes the playoffs, I'll tell everyone that I knew they'd be that good. Hey, I love it, man. I hope that's the case. I think this team is talented enough to be a playoff team. And yeah, the schedule's tough, but also I think it's important to remember. I mean, we look at these schedules every year, and we have these expectations, and then things change a lot during the season. Last year, I thought Utah on the road would be their toughest game of the year. It ended up being a tough game, but I mean, TCU won, and that really turned around the rest of the season for the Frogs after finding a way to gut out a 13-7 win against the Utah team that just could not find a way to score with their backup quarterback, Isaac Wilson, out there. We'll be back tomorrow. getting you ready for media days. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel.